A Pashtun husband went to any length to make his wife pregnant, not missing a single night, sometimes even twice in one night. This is the story of a Pashtun man, and you may not fully grasp their strength. Even an 80-year-old Pashtun can outweigh 10 wives. But how? You'll discover the secret as you watch this video to the end. If you liked our previous video, type yes in the comments and subscribe to our channel. Where is Zartasha? Is she still not ready? Gul Khan called out loudly. Zartasha was locked in the bathroom, but she didn't respond. Silence filled the room. Gul Khan lay on the bed for a while, tapping his foot impatiently. Eventually, he lost his patience. He walked to the bathroom door and banged on it. "Are you planning to stay in there all night? Come out now!" he shouted. Still, there was no reply. He grew angrier. "Zartasha, are you even listening? Come out now, or I'll break the door," he yelled again, his voice filled with frustration. Finally, the door slowly opened. Zartasha stepped out, trembling with fear. Her face was pale and tears streamed down her cheeks. "Please, Gul Khan, have mercy on me," she said softly, her hands clasped together. "I'm exhausted. I've been feeling sick, and I have a fever. Please, just let me rest tonight." But Gul Khan ignored her words. He grabbed her by the wrist and pushed her toward the bed. "Why are you acting like this?" he demanded. "This isn't hard work. You're just doing what you're supposed to do as my wife. Don't you want a child? This isn't just for me, it's for you too. So why are you making a big deal out of it?" Zartasha flinched as she felt a sharp pain in her back. Her body was weak, and she was at her breaking point. "Please, Gul Khan, I can't do this anymore," she pleaded, struggling to pull herself free. "You've been forcing me for weeks now. I'm too tired. I just can't handle it anymore. A child will come when it's meant to. You have to stop treating me like this." Gul Khan didn't listen. He only cared about having a child, and he wanted it right away. In his anger, he grabbed her by the hair and pinned her arms down. Zartasha was too weak to resist. She screamed in pain, but soon the world around her faded into darkness. After a long struggle, Gul Khan finally let go and stepped back. A smirk appeared on his face. "You should be happy, Zartasha," he said smugly. "I'm the kind of husband every woman dreams of. I take care of my duties perfectly." "Isn't that what you wanted?" Laughing, he walked toward the bathroom, leaving Zartasha lying on the bed. She was barely conscious, her breathing shallow. Every part of her body ached, and tears continued to flow down her face. She clutched the bedsheet tightly, mourning her fate. She had married Gul Khan out of love, but now she felt nothing but hatred for him. Because to him, having a child was all that mattered, and he would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Nobody knew who had told Gul Khan that, if he slept with his wife every single night without missing a day, she would conceive by the end of the month. But ever since their third month of marriage, Gul Khan had taken that advice as gospel. He never let a night go to waste. Yet the third month passed with no results. As the fourth month began, Zartasha's health started to resemble that of someone on the verge of collapse. Gul Khan treated her like an object, demanding children while showing no regard for her physical state. Each night he overpowered her, and each night she surrendered. Because what choice did she have? Zartasha often cried quietly, pleading to God, "Please bless me with a child so this torment can end." She prayed not out of joy or anticipation, but out of sheer desperation. Yet as the fourth month neared its end, her womb remained empty, and now she began to fear Gul Khan's obsession. She worried that his single-minded desire for a child might one day push him to an unspeakable act. That night, she struggled to sit up in bed. The blood-stained sheets bore witness to the nightmare she endured. Gul Khan, who had just emerged from the bathroom, lit a cigarette and left the room. He always stepped outside to smoke after fulfilling what he saw as his nightly mission. Tonight was no different. He had finished, so he walked off with his pack of cigarettes, leaving Zartasha alone. Zartasha dragged herself to the bathroom. Standing under the shower, she let her tears flow freely. She sobbed silently, the warm water washing over her as she mourned what her life had become. Gul Khan was her first love, the man she had chosen with all her heart. Now he had become the source of her deepest hatred. Zartasha, once gentle and full of life, had never known how to hate. But Gul Khan's relentless pursuit of a child, his refusal to see her pain, had turned that love into something else entirely. When she returned to bed, she collapsed onto the mattress, exhausted. She scanned the room, spacious, beautifully furnished, with every comfort imaginable. Yet it all felt hollow. The luxury around her meant nothing when the one thing she needed, peace, was nowhere to be found. Her head throbbed, her stomach ached, and her legs felt like they no longer belonged to her. Tears streamed down her face, soaking into the pillow as she closed her eyes, trying to escape into the past. Zartasha's thoughts drifted back to her youth. She had been only 14 when she first saw Gul Khan. He had come to her house on business with her father. At 26, he was a strikingly handsome young man, his commanding presence impossible to ignore. Zartasha had approached with a tray of tea, her beauty modestly hidden behind a dupatta. But when she stepped into the room and saw Gul Khan sitting there, she was taken aback. He was like a prince in her eyes, and she struggled to keep her gaze down as she set the tray on the table and quickly turned to leave. "Hey, you're Shahzad Lala's daughter, aren't you?" Gul Khan called after her. She stopped and nodded, her face still covered by the dupatta, but her deep blue eyes, visible even under the fabric, seemed to cast a spell on him. "We don't drink tea, we drink coffee," he said with a teasing grin. His words flustered her, and she nervously nodded again, reaching for the tray to take it away. In her rush, her dupatta slipped from her face, revealing her features fully. It was the first moment Gul Khan truly saw her. When Zartasha's face became visible, Gul Khan's eyes widened in shock. He had never seen beauty like this before. Pashtun women were known for their striking looks, but Zartasha's beauty stood apart. From the very first glance, she captured his heart. Zartasha, too, felt something stir inside her as her eyes took in Gul Khan's strong, confident figure. He was a man in his prime, full of youth and strength, and his presence made her heart race uncontrollably. For a moment, time seemed to stand still between them. Then suddenly, Zartasha heard her father's voice from outside the guest room. Snapping out of her daze, she quickly pulled her scarf back into place, covered her face, and hurriedly picked up the tea tray. As she left the room, her father, Shahzad Khan, stopped her with a sharp question. "Where are you taking that tray, Zartasha? Why haven't you served tea to the guest?" he asked, clearly annoyed. "Father, he said he prefers coffee," Zartasha replied nervously. "Fine, then go and make him some coffee," her father instructed sternly. "It's cold. Be quick about it. We still have other matters to attend to." With that, Shahzad Khan entered the guest room, leaving Zartasha to carry out his orders. At 14, Zartasha was still young enough to come and go freely in the guest area. In their community, unmarried girls older than 16 weren't usually allowed to appear before male visitors. This was a strict tradition that Shahzad Khan upheld. A short while later, Zartasha returned with a tray of steaming coffee. Her father was seated with the guest, so she quietly placed the tray on the table and slipped out of the room. Once outside, she ducked behind the staircase near the front door. Her heart was pounding. Something about Gul Khan had captivated her, and she wanted another chance to steal a glance at him. Soon, Shahzad Khan left the house, followed closely by Gul Khan. Just as Gul Khan reached the door, he paused and glanced over his shoulder. His sharp eyes caught Zartasha's figure hiding behind the stairs. A faint smile appeared on his face. Zartasha's heart raced as she saw that smile. Without thinking, she slowly lowered her scarf from her face, letting Gul Khan see her again. His smile grew wider. He took in the sight of her, then turned and left the house. And so the story of Zartasha and Gul Khan's love began, though neither of them could foresee how grim its ending would be. A few weeks passed, and Gul Khan's father came to formally propose on his son's behalf. As soon as he left, Shahzad Khan flew into a rage. Grabbing Zartasha by her hair, he demanded answers. "Tell me, when did you start this affair with Gul Khan? How could I not have known?" Tears streaming down her face, Zartasha cried, "Father, I have done nothing wrong. I haven't had any affair." But Shahzad Khan was consumed by anger. For some reason, he was convinced that his daughter had stepped out of line. It wasn't until his wife, Najma, intervened that the situation calmed. "If someone has come with a marriage proposal, what fault is it of our daughters?" Najma argued. "She's a grown girl. Suitors will come. You know how it is. Where there's fruit, stones are thrown." Don't you remember when you sent your father to propose to me? Did that mean I had any prior connection with you? Why blame our daughter? If you think Gul Khan is a good match, accept the proposal. If not, then refuse it. But don't take your anger out on her. Najma's reasoning eventually soothed Shahzad Khan's temper. He admitted, the boy is good, but he has no mother, no sisters, only his father, who's often away in the city. He lives here alone. How can I entrust my daughter's hand to a man who is by himself? Najma was surprised by her husband's hesitation. Shahzad Khan, people dream of alliances like this. If Zartasha marries into a good home, her life will be peaceful. Agree to this proposal quickly. I want our daughter to settle down and avoid any trouble. You know our community's rules. If anything goes wrong, it could lead to a terrible punishment. Protect her future and send her off. Najma's words made Shahzad Khan reconsider. He finally agreed to let Zartasha marry Gul Khan. Their lives suddenly seemed full of happiness. Both were thrilled that their love had so easily turned into marriage. Following their cultural traditions, Gul Khan arrived with his wedding procession. Zartasha, now a stunning bride in a red dress, looked every bit the part. With her eyes lined in kohl and her lips touched with color, she was breathtaking. Gul Khan was spellbound as he brought her home, seating her on the bed like a queen. He promised to return after seeing his friends off. But when Gul Khan joined his friends, they began to tease him. Gul Khan, you're a strong young man. Don't waste time. Announce that you'll be a father soon. If not, people will talk. You know what it's like. If you don't have a child soon, they'll question your manhood. Their laughter stung him. In their community, men who failed to father children quickly faced ridicule. They were taunted, called unmanly, and often lost respect. This pressure weighed heavily on Gul Khan, and he decided that he had to prove himself as a man. Fast. Just wait, he told them confidently. Before the first month is over, my wife will be expecting. Our child will be so strong and healthy that everyone will be in awe. Gul Khan left his friends and returned to Zartasha. Seeing her beauty, he was captivated all over again. He was determined to prove his love and his worth that very night. Overcome by his emotions and desires, he grabbed her in his arms. At just 14 years old, Zartasha had no idea what to expect. She squirmed uncomfortably as he held her tight. His overwhelming passion left no room for tenderness. Ignoring her cries and the pain he caused, he took what he believed was his right as a husband. When he finally stepped back, Zartasha lay on the bed, exhausted and broken. Zartasha, he said, I love you deeply, but you must fulfill my love. I need a child soon, or you'll fall out of my favor. Those words sent a shiver down Zartasha's spine. She had never imagined her first night of marriage would unfold this way. The pressure to have a child so quickly left her shaken. She had begun her married life with Gul Khan, but each passing day grew harder. By the end of their first month of marriage, Zartasha still wasn't pregnant. That's when the men in the community started questioning Gul Khan. Hey, Gul Khan, they taunted. It's been a month already. Where's the baby? When will you share the good news of becoming a father? These words echoed in Gul Khan's mind, turning his life into a daily struggle. He feared that if he didn't become a father soon, his entire community would mock him. This pressure made him treat Zartasha worse with each passing day. 3 months into their marriage, one of Gul Khan's friends told him that if he maintained constant relations with his wife every night without fail, she would surely become pregnant. The idea took root in Gul Khan's mind. He started forcing Zartasha more and more each night. She suffered silently, and her feelings of love slowly turned into a deep hatred. One night, Gul Khan went too far. His violent behavior left Zartasha's body bruised and the bed stained with blood. Her condition became so severe that she had to be rushed to the hospital. The female doctor who examined her was horrified. What have you done to this poor girl? She scolded. Every part of her body is injured. Do you really think this is how you can become a father? Gul Khan, his head hanging low, tried to defend himself. Doctor, it's been 4 months. If she doesn't conceive, people will mock me even more. My community is already laughing at me. The doctor shot back angrily. Are you out of your mind? It's only been 4 months. You're putting unbearable pressure on her. Let her live in peace for at least a year. She's so young and now she's stuck with someone as brutal as you. Do you realize how much blood she's lost because of you? If you hadn't brought her here in time, she could have died. Handing him a prescription, the doctor continued. She needs complete rest. Don't go near her for at least a month. Let her wounds heal and let her have some peace. Gul Khan was stunned. What do you mean I can't touch my wife for a month? He asked incredulously. Exactly what I said. Don't go near her. If you do, and this happens again, I'll call the police myself, the doctor warned him firmly. She handed Zartasha's release papers to Gul Khan and allowed them to return home. Zartasha, pale and trembling from weakness, could barely stand. Once home, Gul Khan paced the room angrily. You must have told the doctor something. That's why she made up this 1-month rule. Now I have to endure more ridicule from the community. Ugh, he fumed. He continued ranting. I thought you were young and would give me good news right away, but you've crushed my hopes. Because of you, my honor is at stake. Gul Khan shook Zartasha violently as she burst into tears. What have I done wrong, Gul Khan? She cried. Every time you claimed your right, I stayed silent. Look at the scars on my body. You never once showed me any mercy. At least listen to the doctor now. Zartasha wept, her voice trembling with exhaustion and despair. Gul Khan was still obsessed with the idea that he would face humiliation if he didn't become a father soon. He managed to stay away from Zartasha for a few days, but on the 5th day, he approached her again. Zartasha, he said, sitting beside her gently. Doctors talk too much. I've spent some days without you already, but I can't wait a whole month. I need the joy of a child. Even Lala from the next neighborhood just got married, and his wife is already pregnant. He walks around the community like a proud man, while I hide my face like a thief. The child wouldn't just be mine. It would be yours too. Please let me be close to you. My body is in pain, Gul Khan, Zartasha replied with tears in her eyes. I don't have the strength. My dear Zartasha, Gul Khan said, trying to comfort her. I promise I won't hurt you. I love you. You know what the doctor said. If anything goes wrong this time, I could lose my life. Don't you love me anymore? Zartasha looked at him with her deep blue eyes. Of course I love you, Gul Khan said. That's why I want a child with you. Otherwise, I would have married someone else by now. Zartasha froze at those words. Without thinking, she opened her arms and allowed Gul Khan to come closer. He embraced her tightly, but soon his tenderness turned into a familiar cruelty. He forced himself on her again, ignoring her pain and cries. Before long, Zartasha passed out, overwhelmed by weakness and blood loss. When Gul Khan was done, he realized Zartasha wasn't breathing. He tried shaking her awake, but she remained unresponsive. Frantic, he wrapped her in a sheet and rushed to the nearest hospital. The doctor, who was still on duty, saw Zartasha and angrily confronted him. I told you to stay away from her. What have you done this time? She shouted. Please, doctor, she's not breathing, Gul Khan said, panicking. The doctor examined Zartasha and found faint signs of life. We need to move her to the ICU, but this facility doesn't have one. You'll have to take her to the city hospital. Call for an ambulance immediately. Following the doctor's instructions, Gul Khan had Zartasha transferred to a better hospital. She was placed in the ICU, fighting for her life. Her parents, Shahzad Khan and Najma, joined them in the city. Najma was horrified to see her daughter in this condition. Zartasha had never shown her wounds or spoken about what Gul Khan was doing. Even if she had, Najma wouldn't have been able to do much. In their community, men held all the power, and women's voices were often silenced. After a week in the ICU, Zartasha regained consciousness. But with her recovery came devastating news. She would never be able to have children. The injuries to her womb were so severe that it had been irreparably damaged. At just 14 years old, she had lost the ability to become a mother, all because her husband was desperate to prove himself by having a child as soon as possible. The news was earth-shattering for Zartasha, her parents, and even Gul Khan. Gul Khan stood by Zartasha's hospital bed, tears streaming down his face. He reached out to take her hand, but she pulled it away. The sight of her frail figure, her face turned from him, pierced his heart. She spoke in a broken voice, heavy with pain. Go, Gul Khan. I can't give you children anymore. Set me free from this burden, from this relationship. Her words hung in the air, sharp and final. Please, Zartasha, he said, his voice trembling. Forgive me. I only wanted to hold my head high, to show our community that I was a man worthy of respect. I didn't realize that my actions would hurt you so deeply. I didn't know. Didn't know? Zartasha interrupted, her eyes glistening with tears. The doctor warned you, didn't she? She told you what could happen if you kept pushing me like this. But no, you had to prove yourself to your friends. Lala's wife became pregnant, so you decided I had to too. That was my mistake, being married to a man who cared more about appearances than my life. Her words sliced through him, leaving him speechless. His mind raced, trying to find an explanation, a justification for what he had done, but there was none. He lowered his head, ashamed. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Zartasha's tears began to flow freely. Sorry won't change anything, Gul Khan. Sorry won't bring back what's been lost. I can never have children now, and I can never forgive myself for not fighting harder to stop this. You've taken away not only my dreams, but my dignity, my hope. I love you, Zartasha, Gul Khan said, his voice cracking. I love you, and I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted a child so badly. I wanted to be proud of us, of our family. I see now how blind I was. Please don't ask me to let you go. I can't. You can't? She said, turning to face him for the first time since waking. Her pale face and hollow eyes stared into his. You can't let me go, but you let me suffer. You let your pride take precedence over my well-being. And now, even though I'm broken, you still refuse to let me find peace? Gul Khan knelt beside her, his head bowed. I don't deserve forgiveness, I know that. But I want to make it right. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn back your trust. Please don't give up on me. Don't give up on us. After a long silence, Zartasha sighed. I don't have the strength to fight anymore, Gul Khan. I'll return to your home, but I have no promises to make. I don't know if I can ever love you the same way again. My heart is tired. Gul Khan nodded. I'll wait, he said quietly, as long as it takes. He brought Zartasha home and the days turned into months. Their conversations grew sparse. Zartasha spent much of her time sitting quietly by herself, staring out of the window, lost in thought. Sometimes Gul Khan would find her crying softly, her tears soaking into the fabric of her shawl. Other times he would see her tracing her fingers over the scars on her arms, her expression empty. Gul Khan tried to comfort her, to show that he had changed. He began helping her around the house, speaking to her gently, giving her the space she needed. He even sought advice from elders and spiritual guides, hoping to learn patience and humility. Yet the distance between them remained. Though Zartasha no longer openly pushed him away, her silence spoke volumes. She was there, but she wasn't the same. As time passed, they reached their 4th wedding anniversary. 4 long years of childless marriage weighed heavily on both of them. Gul Khan now fully understood the price of his impatience, the damage his choices had caused. He often found himself looking at Zartasha, wondering what could have been if he had only waited, if he had shown the patience and faith that marriage required. Perhaps they would have been blessed with children by now. Perhaps they would have shared moments of joy instead of this cold, lingering sorrow. On that quiet anniversary, Gul Khan found Zartasha sitting in the garden, her eyes following a flock of birds flying into the sunset. He approached her slowly, unsure if his presence was welcome. She didn't turn to look at him, but she didn't move away either. He sat beside her, both of them silent for a while. Then in a soft voice he said, I know I can never undo the pain I caused you. I've learned that being a man isn't about proving my strength or meeting others' expectations. It's about being a better person, patient, kind, understanding. I'm sorry I didn't see that sooner. Zartasha didn't respond right away. Instead, she kept watching the sky. Then without looking at him, she said, Gul Khan, you've taken so much from me. But maybe there's still a chance for something better. Not today, not tomorrow, but maybe someday. For the first time in years, Gul Khan felt a flicker of hope. He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. Someday, he said softly. And in that quiet moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat together, both holding on to the possibility that their story wasn't over yet.